All right. Hi. Good morning, everyone. Happy rainy morning. I'm Kacho Pilada, Senior Policy Officer. Good morning, everyone. Happy rainy morning. I'm Kacho Pilada, Senior Policy Officer. Good morning, everyone. Happy rainy morning. I'm Kacho Pilada, Senior Policy Officer. Good morning, everyone. Happy rainy morning. I'm Kacho Pilada, Senior Policy Officer. Good morning, everyone. Okay, that was creepy. Sorry.
What was that?
That, this felt like a fun house. Sorry,
Okay.
everybody. That was a tech glitch. So I think it seems to be done now. Okay, it's done. So just a few reminders before we begin. For transparency, all attendees are required to have their first and last name and organization in their display name. We are being broadcast live on Facebook. You may have seen the notification earlier. If you have any questions, please type your organization and your question in the comment section. A member of our staff will transmit the questions here. Today's session is being recorded. We may use all or part of it in our platforms and publications. We encourage you to get your questions in early, even while the presentation is going on. We also want to remind you that at the end of the session, we'll be doing a photo op with everybody. Keep yourself ready to turn your camera on for this. Thanks. So to officially start the program, let me call on MBC Makati Business Club Executive Director Coco Alquas. Coco?
Thank you very much, Kat, and good morning, everyone. We hope you're all safe and well. Welcome to the launch of Pasig City's second online bike assembly, citizen assembly rather, how Pasig Transport can help more people bike to work. This is a combination of two MBC projects, digital democracy and business for biking. Digital democracy is an initiative of MBC and Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, a German foundation, to introduce e-participation tools to the governments. It aims to improve how governments consult with their citizens to form policy. Another goal of this project is to incorporate technology as a tool for uniting communities. So far, we have worked with governments in Legazpi City, Iligan, Intramuros, and of course, Pasig. Business for Biking, on the other hand, the other project, aims to help workers who bike to work and workers for whom biking is work. This is essential because the lack of adequate public transport remains an issue in the city, coupled with increasing transport costs, as well as traffic. Today's assembly is aimed at MSME owners and management. Pasig Transport wants businesses to encourage their employees to use bicycles as an essential and alternative mode of transportation to improve their workers' daily commute. Today's assembly will feature a fireside chat with Pasig Transport head Anton C. and Rikks Valles, CEO and president of Mida Food Distributors. Rikks is a member of Makati Business Club, a resident of Pasig, and his company is moving to Pasig as well, and an executive who bikes around the city. During their chat, Anton and Rikks will discuss the pain points that cyclists face, who could be your employees or even your customers, as well as introduce solutions that would improve employee welfare, productivity, and retention, and may also boost sales. I would like to thank Rikks and Anton for being here today and thank Pasig Transport for partnering with us in this project. And finally, and most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. Before I turn you over back to my colleague Catch, we have a recorded message of support from Vice Mayor Dodot Jaworski. Vice Mayor Jaworski is recently returning to public service after 14 years in the private sector and is committed to a vision of transparent and accountable government in Pasig. Let's listen to what he has to say. Do we have a technical problem, Catch?
Yes, he's supposed to start his message of support right about now. And we're trying to work that out in the back end.
If not, there it is. Do you want there?
Sure, I can take over and we can just come back to that later in the program.
Once again, everybody, good morning. We'll go back to this message in a moment, but I'll turn you back to Catch now, and I look forward to listening to today's discussion.
Thanks. Okay, thank you, Coco. So, brief work on our workflow. After we hear from Anton and Rikks, we'll use a software called pol.is to gather your ideas about the subject matter. After we adjourn, so pagkatapos pong matapos yung program, sana po pwede natin i-share yung Polis link sa ating mga kaibigan, sa ating mga employees, mga constituencies. So open po yung survey hanggang September 15. Tapos sa September 21, i-represent po natin yung resulta ng survey. So to start the program today, I'd now like to welcome Anton C., Head of Pasig Transport, and Rikks Valles to our fireside chat around biking to work. Hi, Anton. Hi, Rikks. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Catch.
Morning,
Catch.
Okay. Cool. So I'll love my first question to Anton and Rick, to Anton first. So thanks for joining us. Before we begin, Anton, like why is it what is it that Pasig is doing about cycling, and why are we having this citizen assembly?
Sure. So, ever since the pandemic, and even before that, one thing we've really tried to promote in Pasig is we've really wanted to be a leading city in terms of promoting cycling in the Philippines. It's a mode of transport that I guess for many people that aren't used to it, that aren't familiar or have never considered it as an option for themselves, many people might be surprised that it's something worth investing in. But we've always seen it as a way to not only reduce traffic, not only help the environment, but also help more people find a better transport option for themselves. Cycling is something that isn't really a sacrifice on the part of people or an imposition, but it's something that can actually be a really freeing mode of transport that makes a lot of sense for the people that take it. So what we try to do in Pasig is we try to make cycling a better option using two main methods, basically. Number one is to improve the condition of our roads with better bike lanes, better intersections, and improving the policy in terms of road safety. So we're also looking at ways to improve our enforcement of safe motor vehicle operation around cyclists. So we want to go beyond not merely cyclist safety tips for people who are riding bikes, but also making our roads better for people to share the road with cyclists, especially people who drive motor vehicles. Another thing we're trying to do is to really create a lot more end-of-trip facilities. So we've placed a lot of bike racks in and around Pasig City Hall, in our barangay halls, in public schools, and we're looking to increase further the number of public bicycle racks available. And one thing we're also doing is we're looking at ways to where Pasig City can increase the number of bike racks, even in private locations, especially for small businesses that want to have their own bike racks. So we want to look at biking for business as a way to really help the dynamism of the small business environment in Pasig City.
Thanks, Anton. So I want to focus on one thing you mentioned, which is biking as a transport option or biking for commuting. So I live in Quezon City. I work in Makati. My usual commute is 2.5 hours. But we've talked before, and you told me by bike that's 40 minutes. Why is it important to consider biking as an alternative to commuting?
Okay, well, I guess I want to clarify just so I don't get accused of making outlandish claims. I think 40 minutes, of course, it really depends on where in Quezon City you are, just because Quezon City is a really big place. But I would say even for beginners coming from maybe the I guess I want to say the average parts, but maybe like if you're coming from the middle of QC, going to the Makati CBD, I don't actually believe it would take longer than 1.5 hours, even for a beginner cyclist. So I mean, it's something that a lot of people see as difficult at first, and I'm not gonna say it's easy necessarily to start, but I would say that people who start cycling, I think the number one thing you hear from many bike commuters is that almost all of them that I get to talk to say it's a lot easier than they expected. So I guess maybe if I had a tip for people getting into it, try it once, try it on the weekend. You might find it easier than you think.
I think definitely, even if it's an hour and a half, that's way better than the usual 3-hour commute on a Friday. So I'll give that a go. But I know that you, Rikks, for example, you're an avid biker and you started biking to work or biking specifically during the pandemic. What do you think about Pasig's initiatives? So bike lanes, bike racks for MSMEs.
I really appreciate what Pasig is trying to do. The bike lanes in Pasig are, well, so my bike commute is from Pasig. I cross through to Taguig, to Makati, and then to Manila. That's about
Mm-hmm.
a 14-kilometer route, and believe it or not, it takes me 30 minutes also. And
Wow.
driving takes about an hour.
Okay.
So the bike route still wins. You can tell when you've crossed the city because of the way Pasig marks their bike lanes. It really is better. And then some streets. So when I choose what route to take to bike to work, I make sure it's routes where number one there's a clearly marked bike lane, and even better if there's some form of separation. So in Pasig, you've got these orange markers. I think Anton has it in
There
his
you go.
picture, or in some cases, sort of like a cement uh, pot with some plants in it, and that's really good because cyclists are safer in their lane, and motorbikes can't cut through it, or neither can cars. So it feels a lot safer. It's a lot less stressful.
Okay, so that's a lot of praise from for Anton right here. So you've talked about, especially I think that bit where you mentioned all of these cities that you cross, and then you can suddenly say, "Oh, I'm in Pasig now," because the bike lanes are a lot better. But do you have any points for improvement for Anton, or any points that you wish that the Pasig Transport would take up?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's nowhere near perfect. It's a good start.
Mhm.
So where our warehouse is in the back of Cali Industria, so Mangahan and F. Mariano, and those streets are very busy. They're full of delivery trucks, just many heavy vehicles, and even if there's a bike lane there, that kind of gets bypassed because there's just a lot of volume of vehicles. So I don't know what can be done to improve the separation of cyclists to motorbikes and other vehicles. But you can tell when it's an old street or a busy street because you're not. So when you're cycling, you build momentum and you don't want to stop.
Yeah.
It gets very tiring if you have to keep stopping and then starting, stopping, starting. And you know when you're in a busy street because you can't keep moving forward. You have to stop. You have to defend your lane, or sometimes end up in the sidewalk. So that's when it gets stressful. That's when the experience doesn't become enjoyable,
Mhm.
or in some cases it gets very tiring. So by the time you get to work, you're already tired
Yep.
because you've had to defend your route to work. So if there are ways to separate that, or maybe just to educate um, motorcycle drivers and car drivers on how to respect bike lanes more, that would help a lot.
Thanks, Rix. Thoughts, Anton?
Well, I know. I think Rick says some very fair things about the state of where we are as far as cycling. And actually, I was talking to a friend earlier, and she asked me to grade like how we've been doing on bike lanes, both in the city and as a whole. And I would say, I don't think it would be unfair to say that we're maybe at a 7/10 as far as what's been done with our capacities. I would say maybe as far as getting out of the pandemic, I feel like we've at least passed by getting bike lanes up, especially on our main roads where cyclists need them the most and where they need the most separation from fast motor vehicles. But I would say that when you get a 7/10 in school, you go home and your parents are like, "Well, you did okay, but don't you want to go for honors next time?" I know, of course, we're back to school, so we may as well talk about that, right? So I would say that it's we did a 7/10, but I would also say being that parent that there's no reason we have to settle for that. Why don't we go for an 8 or 9 or even a perfect score? And I think that's it's a challenge worth making to to everybody involved in this kind of work.
Thank you, Anton. So I want to turn back to Rix and like pull it back to kind of business for biking. And you mentioned as well. So obviously you're the CEO of a large organization. Have you observed that your employees are being impacted by the transport crisis, and do you see them using biking as like a way to resolve that?
Yeah, especially during the lockdown. So we're classified as essential goods because we're in the food industry. It
Mhm.
became very difficult to move people around because at that time was hardly any public transportation. So we started a shuttle service where we would pick people up at certain points, and so we had fixed schedules of when the shuttles would leave the office, pick people up, and come back. In some cases, especially for those working in the production line, the schedules were very difficult for them to use. So what they did was they just went to bicycle. That they went to cycling because they can use it anytime. And just like what Anton said, in most cases they realized how much easier it is pala to cycle around. And at the time there was hardly any traffic, so I think it was a lot more pleasant also. And as a bonus, a lot of them lost a lot of weight. I was working from home for a couple of months. When I finally went to the office, I couldn't recognize some of them because they had lost so much weight, and they looked a lot healthier. So that's a great bonus for us, right? I mean, our main goal really is to get people to and from our offices safely and as convenient as possible. And if there's a health component to it, then why not? Even better.
Yeah, that's great. I think I love that you mentioned how your employees have to come to work at odd hours. So I also ride the MRT to Makati, and I realize you're right. It closes at 10 or 10:20. So if
Yeah,
you have to leave after that, yeah, you have no option. So definitely, yeah,
that's
a
right.
bike would help there. And so apart from, I guess, the health benefits and the points that Ricks mentioned, I thought, would you have anything to add about the benefits of biking for businesses?
Well, I think Ricks made a very important point about how when you talk about like putting bike facilities and promoting bikes, maybe even giving bikes to employees, I think businesses shouldn't really see it as like, you shouldn't count it as your CSR budget. It's not something that you do just to feel good, just to market yourself as a environment friendly corporation or whatever. I think the fair comparison for businesses to make, for especially companies like Ricks is, you should measure the cost of investing in cycling against the cost of running a shuttle service. And I think maybe when you run those numbers, I think many people will find that there's willingness to bike enough to make it worth it. And I think when you talk about the logistical challenges of operating your own company-specific shuttle service, I think maybe you might be surprised if you've never looked at the numbers. So I would say, if you're a business thinking about it, do think about it, please.
Thanks, Anton. So we mentioned also, Ricks, that earlier you have tried both, right? You mentioned you had done like a shuttle service somewhere in the middle of the pandemic, and now you guys are looking at bike loans. Have you looked at the numbers? Do you think that the bike loans are like a better outcome?
Well, I'll be selfish a little bit, so I'll just talk about business interests. I mean, the economics of providing interest-free bike loans makes a lot more sense than providing a shuttle service for staff. Number one, the logistics. So we're not in the our business is producing and transporting food, not people. So it's very difficult for us to move away from our core and think of how we need to move around our staff members safely and securely. So that's number one. And number two, it requires a lot of resources. So we need more people to drive these vehicles. We actually need to source the vehicles. We need to maintain them, and we're now only realizing how expensive it is to maintain a fleet of cars just to move people around. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect also with providing people with bikes is they feel more free. So they're able to come to work whenever they want. They leave when they can without having to wait for a schedule of the shuttle. So it's just empowerment to them also that they can use the bike for other purposes apart from going to and from our offices.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think fully reinforces what Anton was saying, that maybe it'll end up cheaper. Just try to see if it'll help you
Yeah.
overall. Especially, I guess, with gas prices now going just absolutely insane.
Can I just
Yeah.
add to what Rick
Sure,
said? I
sure.
think it's really important also what Rick said, that it's not just a transportation investment. I think for many employees it's really a recreation allowance. I mean, if maybe companies don't view it that way, but then your employees, they end up using it for exercise, for fun
Yeah.
on the weekends, even for travel. even like intercity tourism. So it becomes, it really punches above its weight in terms of the money you put into it.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
it's two
Yeah.
categories. That's interesting. Yeah. Thanks for that, Button. That's a great point. So also sharing that in our last session, we ran the survey and we showed the results as well. Over 60% of survey respondents said that they would consider biking if the conditions to do so were better or were helped. So I think it's important that by addressing some of the challenges that bikers face, it may also help businesses encourage their employees to bike to work. Um, right. So Anton, based on the challenges that maybe Rix had mentioned about, like, say, the smaller streets, what are some concrete steps or other concrete steps that Pasig is taking to kind of address this?
Sure. So one thing we really want to focus on is that beyond like protection for the length of lanes, protection at intersections is also really important. So we want to make sure that at intersections, we're enforcing against illegal parking. We're improving intersections so that the turning conflicts aren't likely to put bikers in a dangerous position when it comes to other motor vehicles. Speed control at intersections is also really important because when motor vehicles enter intersections too quickly, or if we allow them to, if we leave them to their own devices and they start driving dangerously in the intersections, that just increases risk, not just for cyclists, but also pedestrians and all other road users. So enforcement is also really important. We're trying to find ways to work better on that. We're looking at one thing we're looking at is considering strengthening our legislation for speed enforcement in Pasig City, just to really delineate where we're going to enforce speed limits in Pasig City. We're also one thing we actually also became interested in lately is we're looking at implementing the speed limiter law in Pasig City. So there's actually a law already requiring heavy vehicles to have speed limiters, and we want to find ways to make sure the law is strictly implemented in Pasig City, just to make sure that, especially with the large logistics vehicles, that they're operating safe on the road for cyclists.
Thanks, Anton. So now turning to, I guess, the interest of most of our audience members here. So we have a lot of people from MSMEs. Maybe they head their own MSMEs, maybe they're employees of MSMEs. What kind of topic? I think either Anton or Rix could talk about this. What are the immediate steps that MSMEs can take to encourage biking to work? So it's like these would be like simple, actionable items or low-hanging fruit for businesses to become more bike friendly. Either Anton and Rick or Rix.
I think, Anton, we were talking about this earlier, and it's something I discovered only when I started biking to work. It's the facilities when you get to the office. So a good example is bike racks. We didn't even have bike racks in our office, so people were just putting them on the walls or wherever they could. So that's not safe for the bike. Our showers were not adequate at the time also, so we had to have them refitted just so that they're more comfortable. And what else? So those are the two main things that we've done so far, and we've given them access to bikes. So these interest-free bike loans also were a big deal to them. That's the reason why they decided to get on the program.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Rix. Go on, Don.
I think to jump off what Rick said, I think the one thing you mentioned, Rick, that I'll mention again now is that I think the one advice I'd give to MSME owners that want to think about using bikes for business is that number one thing you can do is that if you're the owner and with the person in control of making decisions, you should try biking into your business just to see what it's like from the perspective of either an employee or a customer. I think maybe if you do that, you really get a sense of what the potential is for like employee transport or or if you're a retail business, what you can do for your customers. So one thing I would say, if you own a business that's dependent on customer traffic, let's say if you're like a cafe or if you're a shop or something, if you have car parking spaces in front of your shop on your storefront, one thing you can do is you can put a bike rack in one of those spaces and see what happens. I think it's very interesting because when you put a bike rack in a car parking space, you can usually turn a space for one customer into space for between 6 and 12 customers. So you can see that. I mean, it's a low risk move. If even one bike parks there, it's the same as utilization if a person there had a car. And you can see what it does and see the effect of bringing people to your business on bikes. The other thing is that you can also look at bike parking for your employees, just like what Rick said. Investing in a shower might be expensive for some businesses, but you can start with the bike racks and see how many people come, and even that will be enough to bring people to your workplace.
Thanks, Anton and Rix. Lots of great points brought up today in our fireside chat. Thanks for answering all of our questions. So we now invite all of our participants to answer the online survey about biking in the city. So following that, we'll have a quick Q&A with Rix and Anton. If you have any questions, anybody in the chat, if you have any questions, you may send it to us in the chat box. So now I'm calling on my colleague Gita to explain how the survey works.
Sure, Cash. Good morning, everyone. I'm Geeta Keswani, Project Lead of the Digital Democracy Project. Let's start by watching a short video on how Polis works.
The Digital Democracy Project uses online platforms to gather citizens' thoughts. Polis is the online surveying tool being used in this project. It's a way to gather open-ended feedback from large group of people online. Polis is powered by artificial intelligence or AI. City governments around the world use it to inform decision-making. In fact, it was used by the Taiwanese government to decide on issues around Uber and other ride-sharing apps. These are the 3 stages to initiate an online conversation: create, vote, and analyze. In the first stage, create, city government employees and MBC staff create a Polis conversation by adding statements to vote on. Then, we invite participants to the conversation. In the second stage, vote, the conversation is run online. Participants click on a link to arrive at a survey where they can vote agree, disagree, or pass on statements in the conversation. Participants may also add statements of their own and have other participants vote on them. In the final stage, analyze, the voting behavior of participants is analyzed by AI in real time. Our data science partner, LayerTech, analyzes the information and is presented to the city government for their action. Makati Business Club and the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung organized the Citizen Assembly. It aims to support governments in measuring public opinion and to use technology to gather citizen input to improve initiatives, programs, and policies.
Thank you. I hope everyone has been able, to the participants, I hope it's clear to you what Pasig City is proposing and how Polis works. We'll now use Polis to find areas of agreement among you and your communities. On your screen, you will see a QR code which will lead you directly to the survey. Please scan the code on the screen. Alternatively, you may also click on the link my colleague Cass and Dessa have shared on the Zoom chat box and on the Facebook comment section. Rix and Anton, I also invite you both to scan the QR code on the screen and answer the 5-minute survey along with us. So I will actually share my screen as well, where so that I can show you how it looks like. So actually, this is the question that came to me first. This is how the platform looks on my end as well. So we have 5 minutes to answer the survey. Catch, my first question that I received asked me if I think that cycling or e-bikes are good for my employees' overall health. I would say I agree because based on what I've heard today, it seems that that's definitely agree. And the second question that the survey is asking is, does my company provide transportation allowance to its employees? So I think most companies do, right? And we also have some.
Yeah, I think most companies do or provide some sort of at least way for you to get to work or make it easier. I definitely agree based on the conversation that we had with Rix earlier about biking being good for his employees' health. So he would know
Yeah.
better. I think answer is yes.
So as you can see, a lot of these questions that are asked are sort of to help us understand what are the policies MSMEs have with their employees and how do they help them get to work. So another question it asks is, does my company provides car or motorbike loans to its employees? So so now this is an interesting question. I would bike to work if I could. What do you think, Catch? Would you?
I definitely would. I think for me, MRT is my main mode of transport. But as sort of a way to bridge from my house to the MRT and the MRT to work, I would. Yeah, I would definitely bring my bike to work. I'd use it there. Just at least save money on gas and transport. How
Yes.
about you, Kita?
I think from my end, if I could somehow protect my equipment, so I take my laptop to work every day,
Mhm.
and if there's a way for me to bike to work where I know it won't be damaged, for example, because of the rain, or if I bump into something, so that's actually what I am actually a little bit worried about in terms of biking to work. But in terms of if I
Yeah, that's a
could,
good point. Yeah.
I yeah, in terms of if I could, I know last month I attended an event with the Pasig Transport in Ortigas. So I actually biked to Pasig from Makati and it was fairly doable. I didn't realize that it was possible for people to bike there, but what if the roads, because the EDSA, all along EDSA there was a bike lane and I biked with a
Mhm.
very experienced biker. I realized that it's actually possible for most people to bike at least 40 minutes to work.
That's super interesting, Gita. By the way, for those that are answering the survey along with us, you might be surprised that these are the set of questions that we get. For your info, it's randomized. The site Polis gives you the questions at random, so you may not see the questions that we're answering now, or you may get different questions at the start. That's really part of the process.
Yes. So I think everyone has probably had enough time to answer the question. So what I'll do now is show you a quick a sneak peek of the survey results. Yes, and this is how our survey results look like. These are actually analyzed in real time using AI. So about 25 people so far have answered the survey. And you can see based on the colors that a statement with more green means that there are more areas of agreement, whereas a statement which is primarily red, it means that some people agree with it and some people disagree with it. So there are areas of disagreement. So the one statement that has the most area of agreement is that the quality and duration of my employees' commute have an effect on their morale, productivity, and their retention. So we can see that a lot of participants in this survey are quite concerned about the impact that their daily commute has on their morale and productivity. So I request everyone in the room to please share this survey with your friends and family and colleagues who work in Pasig, especially people who own businesses in Pasig, because the more results we get, the more robust the insights we will receive regarding the survey. Thank you. We are now ready for the question and answer section of our program. Catch, over to you.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned earlier, anybody that has a question for either Ricks or Anton, please do comment it in our chat box. We also have a colleague watching the Facebook comment section just in case you throw your questions there. Okay. So this is an interesting thought, I think, Anton, just to kind of start us off. So we mentioned that Ricks was doing bike loans for his employees and he had put up his bike racks in the workplace. But on the government side, are you guys planning on providing like tax incentives to employers that encourage biking to work? Is that something that we could explore in Pasig?
We're always on the lookout for financial incentives. I think the thing with financial incentives is that the process of like starting a mechanism for legislating financial incentives is always a little tricky because then you start to I think the short answer is that there are many more hoops to jump through when it comes to talking about like allocating public funds. I'm not going to say it's off the table, but it's something where I think to be completely realistic, there would have to be a clear mechanism in terms of like knowing what we get out of using the money and realizing what the like where we're going to get the money to provide the incentive in terms of cutting, like which taxes are we going to cut, are we going to give a subsidy. It's a it's not off the table, but I would say it's complicated for sure, and we're still in the process of studying it.
Thanks for your honesty there, Anton. We're happy to hear that it's not completely off the table, but I guess that it's quite realistic to see that it's a little bit further down the line than right now. Okay. Right. So while we're waiting for the questions to come in, I also wanted to ask on another note. So large businesses, I guess, like more established corporations, they have the space and the funds to create bike-friendly infrastructure. Would say loans for small businesses be available? Because I know, for example, if you have the resources to, if you want, even if you want to put a bike rack, you may not have the resources to do that right now. Is there anything that the city government can do to help with that?
Yeah, so we're in the process of procuring another round of bike racks. I think one thing we really want to explore is that if you're a small business, if you're a small business that's willing to put the bike rack in a place that's like decent and useful, but you don't have the capital or don't have the access to a fabricator who can do it for you, then we want to explore how we can assist in in kind by locating the racks. I don't know if we'll explore loans to small businesses from city resources. This is some,
Mhm.
I mean, for this purpose, I mean, just because there's a lot of commercial financing available naman for small business operations.
That's a good point, I think. Like if you were able to kind of direct them to the cheapest or the best bike rack, that would save them a lot of time and having to look for like the best person to make it.
Yeah.
If you could also like collate, I guess the orders from small businesses, that might help lower the costs. Right. Okay.
Catch, if I can just interject, I'd also love to
Sure.
see a form of bike sharing. I recall some time ago there was these ADB bikes, or it was a program launched by ADB. I don't think it ever started, but they had 4 or 5 bikes in several places around Ortigas. I think that would help us a lot. So that the resources that it doesn't need to come from us. We don't need to loan the hardware. It's just sort of available around the city.
Yeah. I think I guess to get on that, Ricks, we actually had a Pasig bike share program running briefly. During the pandemic, we actually distributed the bikes to employees who used them and still use them for commuting. I think to be completely transparent about bike sharing is that one thing we found is that it's a little hard to make it successful when when your infrastructure doesn't meet a certain level of a certain standard of safety. And I will say that completely honestly, again, we still have a way to go, even in Pasig, to get to the standard where bike sharing can be made sustainable. Just because when you talk about bike sharing, you're talking about people who want to use bikes but aren't I guess maybe invested enough in the lifestyle to own their own bikes. So I think almost by definition, these are occasional newbie cyclists who don't have the same skill level as somebody who would own their own bike. So I think we really want to make stuff like that happen again. But then I think what we've realized is that it's kind of a second order. It's a second order kind of thing where we need to create some conditions for it to be successful first.
Great points. Rex, anything to add to Anton?
No, I actually agree with some of his points. It's very difficult to implement some of them. But my thoughts as a business owner is if there are ways, if there are alternative ways to encourage people to cycle without having to buy the bicycle itself,
Yeah.
because that's already such a big. I mean, it's an expensive investment for some, or having to think of where to park it.
True.
Let's say they're on their way home and they need to pass by a store to buy some groceries. And then you have to think, oh, what store do I go to that I can safely store my bike for 30 minutes? So these things, cyclists have to figure it out before they decide to go on a route.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks, Rix. That's a great point. I guess that you're thinking really about like how to bring the bike with you. But I suppose
Yeah.
in the same thought, it's the same logic if you bring a car. You have to think about, oh, where will I park this if I get there? So yeah, good points to think about for Anton. We have one question here from Glenn Arayon, JFC Co-op. Glenn, could you ask your question live? Glenn, are you with us?
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Glenn.
I'm from GFC Company, one of the employees working in. Pasig CBD, particularly in Ortigas. Nabanggit kanina yung bike racks. How about public showers for cyclists for tubing in Ortigas? Kasi we're in a tropical country kasi I'm also a cyclist, a driver, a rider. So it's kind of hot when biking from home to office. Do we consider installing some public showers?
Yeah, I think the thing with public showers is that we've actually studied the concept, and one of the people I know who's also doing this work actually did a feasibility study for public showers of this nature. I think the main challenge when it comes to public showers is that syempre, if you're a business and you're thinking about installing your own shower rooms, it's not exactly a cheap thing to do. So many businesses, I think it's much more expensive to install your own showers than install bike racks. And I think when you talk about public showers, the cost actually increases in some senses because you want to have showers that are not only durable for public use but also secure. We need to find land for it. We need to find a water connection. It's something we're looking at, but I think maybe we're still trying to find the resources and maybe find an economical solution when it comes to establishing public showers. I think maybe if there was a private company that was willing to be a partner for us in terms of locating the public shower and maybe even shouldering the cost of like installation to water and being our partner to connect to the water system, then maybe we could explore it. But it's something where I think maybe what we'll focus on more is first promoting the construction of showers by some of the larger companies, maybe.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thanks.
sir.
Anything else to add or follow-up question, Glenn?
None so far in sketch. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hi Karen. Sorry. I'd like now to call on Karen Chrysostom has a question for Rikks. Hi Karen.
Hi, Ricks. Good morning, and good morning, everyone. I'm just actually curious, how many employees in your company bike to work versus those that take public transportation or drive, as well as have you kind of made a comparison to, are there the people who bike, are they happier? Do they seem happier, more energetic versus those that drive or take public transportation? Are they stressed at work?
I'm gonna have to think of how many bikes. So we're a 25-year-old company. So we have a lot of, how can I put it? Our average median age is kind of high. So the ones that bike to work are generally the younger ones, or the ones that work in food production. The ones that have to take a shower before and after their shift anyway. I would say less than 10% bike to work right now. What's increasing though are office staff that bike to work. So when you say office staff, it's people that work on a desk, on a computer. Are they happier? It's hard to tell, but they look a lot healthier. I mean, you can really see that those that have decided that biking to work will be their primary mode of transport, that they look a lot healthier. They've had to buy skinnier clothes because their clothes were too big. So I'm sure they feel better because of it. Although I haven't directly asked them if they're happier because they're biking, because they'll probably just say yes to me, because they know that I love cycling.
That's true. If your boss asks you, there's already some bias there.
Oh my, that's
Any
true.
follow-up? Any follow-up, Karen?
I just really thank you, Ricks, for responding. And I agree. I think I save a lot on clothes. I bike too, and I'm actually still wearing clothes that I've been wearing for 10, 15 years. I swear,
There you
promise.
go.
It shows me that I'm wearing the same clothes.
Thank you, Karen. All right. So now it's time for our photo op. If the participants are comfortable, we would like to ask you if you'd like to turn on your video now. I'll count 2 times. Sorry, let me just wait for people to get their face ready. All right, I'll start counting. So please turn on your video now. I'll count 2 times. 1, 2, 3, smile. And then 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you. So before we end, we'd like to share the recorded message of support from Vice Mayor Dodot Jaworski.
Good morning to everyone here today attending today's event. I wish to greet everyone a pleasant morning. Thank you very much for hosting today's event to the Makati Business Club. This is Vice Mayor Dodot Jaworski of the City of Pasig, and we are very lucky that we have a forum such as this so that we can discuss pending issues in the transport and mobility sector, such as that of which is important in today's society. Number one is to increase the number of accessible bike lanes for use throughout the city of Pasig, and as our experts will explain to you, it has indeed given a lot of help and improvement in terms of moving one person to another without the use of fossil fuels or cars. And we really have to put our heads together and try to figure out ways how to change the mindset of the people so that we can not only use less gasoline, but more than that, change the outlook of the people so that we can walk a little more, get healthier, use the bikes, and again, the less use of traditional energy, the better. So please join us to figure out more ways on how we can all be more effective leaders, more effective in pushing for new directions, ordinances, and other resolutions so that we can have a more effective transportation and mobility sector, not only in the city of Pasig, but throughout the metropolis all over the country. So again, a pleasant good morning to all, and God bless you. Good morning to everyone here today attending today's event. I wish to greet everyone.
Okay. Thank you to Vice Mayor Jaworski's office for sending us that message of support. I'll now call on Coco to close today's program. Coco?
Thanks very much, Catch. Thank you again to Rikks and to Anton for taking time to educate us today on the benefits of biking for businesses. To our participants, thanks again. Could we ask you to please share the survey that we shared today with your communities? We're going to send you the link via email, and you can also find it on our Facebook page. The survey will be open until September 15, Thursday. We will process the results and then come back here on September 21 to present the results to you. Please also like our social media pages that we are flashing on your screen right now for more updates on this and other programs. With that, we look forward to seeing all of you at the closing event on September 21. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and please have a good day. Thanks, everybody. Rikks and Anton, thank you very much.
You're very
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
It's my
Guys.
pleasure. Thank you.
Karen and Glenn, thank you for your questions.
Thank you. Bye, Coco.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.